everyone, I'm Carolyn, and welcome to this week's edition of Carolyn's Caregiving Connection, part of the Lantern of Chagrin Valley Facebook Live programming, and the Lantern of Chagrin Valley is just outside Cleveland, Ohio. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at the Lantern of Chagrin Valley, and we are a sister community to Lantern of Madison and Lantern of Saybrook, both part of the Lantern Lifestyle Company. You can learn more about any of us by visiting our website at www.lanternlifestyle.com. Now, each of our communities has a weekly program. They're live on Facebook. They're also recorded and available later on demand, and we now share them on YouTube. So we invite you to visit, share those with others, certainly like, comment, and on YouTube, we'd love you to subscribe. Really trying to increase and grow our base here of those who watch us. And we're up to, at most of our communities, about 5,000 views a week. So we thank you for that. Now, I also want to thank those of you that have been tuning in every week to Carolyn's Caregiving Connection. We've had some really interesting speakers and topics, including elder law attorneys. We've learned about care management and how that works, having an outside group help you work with family members to determine resources and work together, sometimes when we have some conflict. We have about 6 new topics coming up in the next few weeks that are going to be so interesting. So I encourage you to tune in and also follow our Facebook page so you'll see who the speakers will be on a given week. We do appreciate, as I said, your comments, and we welcome you to suggest either new topics or also help us by suggesting speakers. So if you're a family member or you're a senior and you've engaged or interacted with somebody that you think would be helpful for others to know about, give us a call, let us know. Now tonight we have a very interesting topic, and I've titled it The Final Word, Helping to Ensure That Your Final Wishes Are Honored. So this could be directed at you personally, or perhaps you're a caregiver to someone else, a loved one, and you'll be thinking in terms of them as the frame of reference. So it's not necessarily a fun topic, but I feel it's a necessary one. You know, we all want to plan for the inevitable. Mourning the loss of someone, grieving someone is terrifically emotional. And during that time, we have all we can do sometimes to just get through it. You know, grief is an individual journey, it's a personal journey. But if we add to that all the tasks that someone has to manage in preparation for funerals and follow-up, it can be overwhelming. So if you have your own thoughts and final wishes about your last few days and following your passing, you know, it's good to kind of think ahead and do some pre-planning. So some of us have thought ahead, and we've done a little bit of planning. You may have purchased some cemetery plots. You might have already met with a funeral director or cremation service and kind of made some arrangements and even paid for them. Perhaps as part of your applications for Medicaid, you are doing what is called the spend down. So you have actually made those preparations as part of your pre-application planning process, if you will. So those are some common steps that most of us have had, but that's really only the beginning. There's really so much more to thinking about the final word or honoring your wishes. Now, in one of our past editions here of Carolyn's Caregiving Connection, we had an elder law attorney, Lori Steiner, from Solomon, Steiner, and Peck, who spoke with us about all the legal documents that we typically want to consider in our advanced years. And actually, if you're over 18, you definitely need the healthcare power of attorney. But as we get a little bit older, we think about a power of attorney that's financial. What if I can't manage my affairs? I may want a son, a daughter, someone else to handle my banking, investments, any of those kinds of legal matters. I may have the healthcare power of attorney, but I may also have something like the living will, trust accounts, and those are some of the things that Lori spoke to us about. So if you missed that program, you can certainly go back on our Facebook page and find it. They're all posted there. You can go on our LinkedIn page for Lantern Lifestyle, and you can go on YouTube, and I guarantee you'll find it. If you don't, you just give me a call, and I'll make sure I send it to you. So one of the things that I do recommend is that you do consult an elder law attorney if you're someone who has some assets, because you want to protect your assets, you want to protect your wishes. You don't want your children fighting or squabbling over your affairs, your assets, and what have you, especially if you've had a second marriage or even a third marriage. Perhaps you've been widowed or divorced and now there's some step families involved. So take those extra steps to meet with someone and make sure that, again, your wishes are followed. So let's say you have some documents on hand. Where are you keeping them? Most of us either have a kind of a metal box at home. We may put it in the closet. You may even have a safe. So those are good places. A firebox, fireproof metal box, that's a good place to keep your important papers. Your attorney, if you went to an attorney, has probably retained a copy. They might have already been filed at the local courthouse so that they're of record, if you will. And if you have named someone in your legal documents, perhaps you've named an executor of your estate, perhaps you've named someone to be your power of attorney, your healthcare power of attorney, give a copy of those documents to that individual so they're prepared, they know how to access them, they know what's expected of them when that time comes. Now, it's also good then if you are going to be a resident of a senior living community like here at the Lantern, you're going to provide those documents to that community so that they have them on record. And most hospitals now are going to ask you if you have a living will or a healthcare power of attorney or a do not resuscitate, and they'll actually retain those records for you as part of their chart or their electronic file. And today with technology, you may easily be able to just scan those documents into a file and keep them in the cloud, as they say, and you don't have to worry about having all those papers, at hand. Well, that's only, again, the beginning. Having those papers, having those details, and what are some of the other things we want to think about? Well, today, one of the most important ones would be passwords. Almost all of us have accounts today that require a password or even a PIN number. Do you have bank accounts that require passwords? Do you pay your bills online? Perhaps you have credit cards and you pay those bills online. You may need a password, you may need account numbers, you may need PIN numbers to be able to access that information. So if someone's going to be looking at your affairs after you pass, you may want to make sure they have that information somewhere. So you can have a little spiral bound notebook and just put it in that same metal box with your important papers. You may keep a file on your computer. You may even have something that's on your phone. Today, many of the phones have a special app that's a password app. Usually they're free, and they allow you to securely save all your passwords for the various accounts. So think about the things that you have and you manage online, if you will, or via your computer that would require a password or a PIN number. Again, it could be credit card accounts, could be your mortgage, could be some of your investments. Perhaps you have investments with your pension or your 401k. It could also just be the utility bills that you're paying online. Those are the kinds of things that is for someone to assist you or actually have access to your account and stop what might be an automatic payment every month. You want them to have that information. It could be that you have things like AFLAC or other insurances that are taking out monthly premiums. Well, you certainly wouldn't want monthly premiums to continue if you've passed away and perhaps your family's dealing with a probate. Probate can take up to a year, and I've even seen longer. So, you don't want automatic payments to be coming out of an account when you're not there any longer. Those accounts should be, squared away. Do you have a car payment that is online? Do you have perhaps purchases that you make regularly? Maybe you have wine of the month, fruit of the month club. Maybe you have donations that you're making regularly to a church, to an alumni association, St. Jude's, Wounded Warriors. Any of these causes or groups that you're affiliated with may have already been the kind of organization that you've committed to on a monthly basis, even PBS. So it could be as little as $5 a month, and it could be a grander amount, but you want to be alert to the fact that someone will want to know about all those deductions coming out of your accounts each month. Do you have something like a timeshare? Do you have a vacation club, something that a significant amount of money is invested in? Those are things that, again, you want that person to know and be able to take care of. Do you have car insurance payments, house and home insurance payments? Do you have cancer policies, specialty unique health insurance type policies that you want to keep track of? Many of us have one big policy for life insurance. Could be through our employer, could be something you've taken out on your own as a whole life plan. But you may also have some little tiny policies that were part of having an account somewhere. So some of us get $1,000 life insurance policy with our local bank or with particular credit cards. You may have also gotten some extra insurance when you had a car loan in case something should happen to you. It might be that you've had an alumni association or professional organization that gave you $1,000, $5,000. So those are all those same accounts with IDs, passwords, PIN numbers that you'll want to make available, as well as your typical, ATM card, something as easy as that. Have you purchased anything over time? Some of us today, you see those commercials, you get new windows for your house, new siding for your house, a whole new kitchen with new appliances, and you have 1, 2, 3, up to 5 years to pay. So those might be the type of purchases you've made, and if so, will someone know about those, and will they know who to contact? Most certainly our family members and those closest to us, they may know our main bank, they may know where we were employed, they know how to contact the employer to find out about life insurance or pensions or anything like that. But make sure that they have true contact information and they know your employee number, they know your account numbers. If you have recent statements, and most of us get a quarterly statement for any of our investments, including 401k, toss one of those in your metal file or in your electronic file so the persons that are assisting you will have that at hand. Now, did you know that if you have automobiles that you can get a special title, costs about $20 at the local BMV, that allows that title to be easily transferred to another individual should you pass away without going through probate. So let's say you have a few cars. Maybe you have your main car. You could have a kind of an older runaround car. You might also have some specialty cars. Maybe you're a sports car collector. Maybe you have a vintage car that you've kept, something like that, and you want it to go to a grandchild or you want it to go to someone else in your family. You can set that title up now so that they avoid probate, they avoid waiting that whole time, and can take care of it for as easy as, $20, let's say. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to speak about when we do this is, these are some details that we're talking about. So having affairs in order, meaning paperwork, knowing about your insurance plans, how to access them, who to call, account numbers, anything that would be password protected, especially online. If you have accounts, it could even be your health insurance plan. It could be your MyChart or your plan with, Cleveland Clinic or University Hospital or whatever hospital system you're with. You may have folks that want to be able to access that information at some point in the future. It could be that you want them to simply access your Facebook account. Facebook actually has a special account now that if someone passes away, someone else can contact Facebook and maintain that account. It's closed for new posts, but it allows people to go back and look at it, and it sends a reminder out once a year so that the friends and contacts that individual had get a little reminder and an opportunity to have a little memory of them. And it's actually quite touching. People find it very comforting. Do you have an address book? Either electronically, on your phone, or even a hard copy address book. That's a helpful thing to have a copy of, and in that same metal file, fireproof box, or somehow saved for those that will be assisting, after your passing. They may want to contact your friends that are far away, college alums, military friends, former neighbors, even family members. And it's very hard sometimes to remember the person who is now maybe you have 3 or 4 children and 7 or 8 or 9 grandchildren, however it may be, and great grandchildren, and now you're trying to reach those folks and perhaps their spouses. It's not always easy to remember all these married names. I actually met with a lady a couple of years ago, and she had 75 grandchildren and great grandchildren together. And I even asked her, my golly, how can you remember all their names? And she said, I have a trick. And I said, well, what is it? I'd like to know. And she said, I call them each Precious. And when I call them Precious, they all come running and they all know that they're loved. So she said, I can't possibly remember all their names and ages and married names. So an address book can be very, very helpful. I know even with my own parents, passing. I knew that they had childhood friends from long ago who still lived in their little towns, and we maintained contact through the years with holiday cards and whatever. But when it came time to really let them know that my parents had passed away, it was a little bit of a struggle to find those, contact points, the phone number, correct spelling of the name, or street address. So I've talked about some of those things that are important, but now let's go in another direction, and that would be tributes and memorials. Now, who's going to write your obituary? We've all seen the obituaries in the paper. They used to be quite flowing and long. And in fact, I actually have a high school friend who lived in New York for many years, worked for a major news outlet, and her job was writing the obituaries of very well-known people. And they would be done in advance so that during their passing, of course, these were older individuals, the newspaper would be ready to go with the next edition. So you don't have to think that way, but today's obituaries, if you've had to publish one, can be very expensive. What used to be a little 2-inch piece in our local papers could be costing you $300, $400, $700, and I've even seen them more than $1,000. So it may not be something that you can do in your local paper, but you can do it on a program. You can do it with the funeral home on a website. So you might want to think about different versions of that. And what would you want people to know about you? Typically we list our name and our birth date and the day we passed and maybe the town we lived in, some relatives, our occupation. It's pretty matter of fact. But if you want people to really kind of celebrate your life, you might want to have some other things added. And those are things that you can think of. In fact, my husband and I married later in life, over 50, and we have no children. So I have actually written our own obituaries. I've done it myself, and I update them every now and again so that I know I've spelled people's names correctly. I've included the people that I know were important to us in our lives, and it's done my way, on my terms. And that's what this particular presentation tonight is about, doing it your way. Now, what kinds of things would you, think about for an obituary? Well, it could be that, again, you want to keep it short and sweet, like we just talked about. You might want to include the involvement you had in the community, military service, years you were in college, perhaps you had a very involved profession, awards. It's up to you. It's your personality. So those are things that you can think of doing in advance. You can put them on a little memory card. You can print them out and send them to that person who's going to be your executor. And you might have already had some discussions with perhaps a member of the clergy, selecting music, or individuals who can do readings at your service. Many of us have children and grandchildren that would be involved in our services. You can think about that ahead. You know that you want to ask a particular friend to do a eulogy, or clergy member or family member. Those are things we can do in advance. Today, many of our funeral directors, whether it's a funeral or you've had a cremation and there's going to be a memorial, they have software packages that allow us to include a lot of photos. And those photos then are often set to music, such as your favorite music. Now, I did this for my own mother. She loved Elvis Presley, so we had Elvis Presley music, particular songs at her funeral. But most of us have those favorite photographs. So some childhood photographs, school, sports photographs. You may have your wedding, military, all the photos that you've had maybe from vacations or special times with your own children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Include a few of those over the timeline of that person's life, including your own. And as I said, I've written our obituaries. Well, I also have photo files. So I have a little box of all the actual photos, so that the person I've asked in our family to help celebrate our lives can make the little poster boards that everybody has. And I also have those photos scanned onto a memory card so that I can hope that this individual will give them right to the funeral director, and they'll go into a program, and that relieves that person of having to go through my scrapbooks and photo albums and try to dig out photos. It's all done. It's the photos that we feel celebrate our lives, and I've removed that responsibility from our loved ones so that they can truly celebrate our lives and not be burdened with tasks, if you will. So some of the things that you might also want to think about is as part of our passing, we have special wishes. You may know that you want certain things done at a service. Again, you may want special people to be there. You may like special music. You may want people to sing music or perform music. I've seen people have bagpipes. I've seen, folks have particular individuals singing certain songs that were important to them. You may want, again, the special readings. You may want special foods. Perhaps you want not a solemn service. You may want that true celebration of life where everyone drinks a toast to you, or they go to a particular restaurant, or they do something, again, that was unique to your personality. Those are things that you want to, again, either prepare or share with someone else in advance so that your wishes can be honored. And you may even want to prepay for some of those things. So again, there's no burden for details, no burden for planning, no burden for paying, if you will. So I hope that's given you a few ideas of how we can think differently about our own passing. It's not just, of course, that our life ends and those that we leave behind mourn us or even celebrate us, but there are many, many tasks that go into someone's passing, from having the right documents, from having the right contacts, from knowing perhaps that if we had insurances or even military service, there may be some calls that can be made to make sure we get a certain headstone or military burial or other things, connections to your churches or alumni groups. Let those things be put forth in writing some way in a special place. So whether it's the old-fashioned, fireproof box or a file folder, or you actually do it electronically, that you've communicated that. Celebrate your own life. We all have wonderful things that have happened in our lives. Make sure those stories are told so that the legacy of all that you've brought to your family, to your community, to your world are celebrated and remembered and continue, especially for our family members. Tonight our topic was the final word, helping to ensure that your final wishes are honored. And I hope we've given you some new ways to think about things and to take those preparation steps that make your passing one that's as easy as it can be on those that you've left behind. And that if you're helping someone, you're a caregiver to perhaps an older relative, that you're able to think ahead and maybe have some conversations about how to obtain some of this information ahead of time so that you'll be in a better place when you have to take on those tasks for another individual. So again, I thank you for tuning in this week to Carolyn's Caregiving Connection. And as I said, the program is recorded. It is on Facebook on the Lantern of Chagrin Valley page. It's also shared on our other Lantern pages. It's shared on LinkedIn, and it's shared on YouTube. So we invite you to visit, to like, share, and also subscribe to help us grow our audience. And I also welcome your comments. I welcome your suggestions on other topics. And please stay tuned over the next 6 weeks. We have some really incredible speakers coming on to talk about a number of topics that you've suggested. So I look forward to bringing those people to you. And until I see you at our next episode next week, or our next edition, I send you my best for today and always.